You're listening to Talk Daredevil, the official podcast of the Save Daredevil campaign.
Hey everyone, we are back with a new episode of Talk Daredevil, the Daredevil podcast brought to you by the Save Daredevil campaign. Today I am joined by...
Hi guys, this is Ayesha.
Hey, and I'm Rhiannon.
Today we are getting together to talk about something that we love, which is cons. After about a year of pandemic life, we're definitely missing cons more than ever. So as a way to give us an excuse to think about cons and remember all the things that we love about them, we also wanted to highlight why they were such important experiences for us, not just individually, but also for the campaign and how it really helped the campaign grow in a way that we never thought was possible and never would have been possible if it were only online. So we're going to walk through a few of the major cons that we did, and we're just going to kind of share. So I'm going to throw it to Ayesha first.
All right, so the first con we attended as a campaign was Ace Comic Con in Arizona in January 2019. Now, this was a very emotional time for all of us as the fans because the show had just recently been canceled and we had just switched from Renew Daredevil to Save Daredevil, launched the new website. I remember like a week before, it was that time when Vincent gave a shout out to us. He tweeted our website and then the petition just took off after that. One of the things that I remember about that con was that, we didn't know what frame of mind Charlie was going to be in. This was the first con that I booked tickets for, and I had like my plane ticket 100% insured so that if anything goes wrong, I'm not going there. I was only going there for Charlie. A couple of interviews maybe had come out where Charlie had talked about how sad he was that Daredevil was taken away from him. And we were like in a very sad, emotional state at that time. But it was a fledgling campaign and we were hoping to connect with fans as well. So that was very important. That was the second time I went on a con with you, Phyllis.
Right, yeah.
Right. And so I'd already met you at New York Comic Con 2018. This was, when all the season 3 press was going on.
I also should point out that we met Rhiannon technically for the first time there, too.
Right. At New York Comic Con, right after the Build interview.
Yeah, we were all at the Build interview in 2018.
And we saw each other in line trying to get into Madison Square Garden.
That's true.
You were so lovely and gave us those little goodie bags. And then the crowd kind of like pushed us all apart, but it was lovely seeing you there. So
it was mayhem inside Madison Square Garden, but it was a fabulous experience going to the Daredevil panel. So talking about Ace, Ace was
different vibes.
Yeah, totally different vibes.
I remember for this one, I was already hoping and planning to go. But when the Daredevil cancellation news came through, I was obviously very heartbroken and very upset. And everyone was like, don't talk to mom right now. She's having a day.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later, my husband came downstairs and was like, I bought you passes to Ace Comic Con. This is like, hopefully this can help to heal the wound a bit. From the cancellation news, which was very, very sweet of him. And it was, one of the reasons why I did go. And it was also because at that time when we had decided to go, the campaign was still trying to figure itself out. So I don't think we even intended Ace to really be our first campaign appearance. It kind of just ended up that way. And to also give my husband another shout out, he was the one who suggested that we should put the logo on t-shirts and wear the t-shirts there. So I literally was like, oh, that is a really good idea. So I went and tried to find a t-shirt printing place that would expedite like shirts to us, right? Because I bought your shirt to Ace for you. And I was
yes, and it was like
I washed it and that was right size.
It was a week before, I think, that it all came together. And I'm like, okay, we've got t-shirts, Save Daredevil campaign shirts.
Yeah, and we're like, oh, well, I guess we'll make some stickers and we'll try to like talk to people while we're there. But it was weird because our emotions were definitely very tumultuous because we did have that wonderful moment with launching SaveDaredevil.com and then having Vincent visibly support us. And then we were just hoping that like Charlie had hopefully seen some of that and like knew that the campaign was there supporting him. But, you know, it was just like it was good for us emotionally to be able to like go there and like see him. At that time, we had made a little book for him, I think, of messages from the Save Daredevil team, which I think was a good morale booster to be able to be like, hey, Charlie, we're thinking of you and know that we will support you no matter what, you know, kind of thing.
I remember talking to you about what was it that we were going to actually say to Charlie, or what should we not say to Charlie, because we don't know how he was feeling. And we, at first, we were like, should we ask him to give a message to the fans, you know, to the boost morale? And then in the end, we decided, you know what, we're not going to put him on the spot. And we did not want to, you know, make him feel like he was pressured into saying something he was not comfortable with, or he was not legally allowed to at that time. So all we decided that we're going to give him that Dear Charlie book, and then we'll tell him about the petition and tell him about the numbers. And like, you know, that's what we did on that first day when in the autograph line that we met him. You gave him the book and he's like, oh yeah, I'll read it on the plane and I'll look really weird reading a book about me.
He was very cute about it, yeah.
He was, and he was very thankful and very grateful. And then we told him about the petition, and he said, yes, I've heard about it. This is so cool. And said, you know what? We have this many, 160,000 people had signed up by that time. So I gave him that number, and he was very, very sweet. And that was it. Like, you know, that's all we wanted to give him. Just relay the message from the hundreds of fans that we were interacting with, that, hey, we love you, Charlie, you know, no matter what. We love you as Matt. We love you for the work that you did. And that's it. And then the most amazing thing happened at the panel. He gave us a shout out.
Yeah.
He literally like pointed at us in the front row and goes, look at these guys sitting. They're wearing the Save Daredevil t-shirts, and there's a petition. Sign it. And
it was so surreal. And what was really cool too was because that was the next day. So when we had that, we had that great interaction with Charlie, and then at that point we had also planned, you know, we're going to do some giveaways. We're going to make sure to get some stuff signed for the fans, and that's when we kind of try to figure out our strategy for talking to fans. And we're like, you know, there's lines of people waiting for Charlie, waiting to meet him for photo ops or for autographs. Like, let's talk to these fans. These are the ones that need to know about the campaign. So I remember we just started talking to people in line. We gave them stickers. A lot of people didn't know about the cancellation, so they were hearing it from us first. And it was just so, like, that energy was so, because it was so new to us, you know, like that interacting on the ground with fans in real life energy. And it was so, everyone was so nice. And it was so great because by the time Charlie did his panel and he shouted us out, I think people already knew that we were the Save Daredevil girls, you know, who had been giving out stickers like all con so far. I remember the people around us were like so sweet and so like, yay, you know, Save Daredevil. And that was really, you know, in retrospect, like that energy was so crucial to kind of getting our feet wet for all the stuff that was going to come later on in the year, which we really couldn't even know what it was going to be like at that moment. But just being able to meet those fans, being able to talk to Charlie. Oh, I just want to also shout out that we met a couple people there. Another person whose name is Phyllis, which was like a shock for me because I never ever meet other Phyllises who are under the age of 50. And her friend, and they had made their own Save Daredevil shirts. Now, you know, we did not expect to like run into anybody wearing Save Daredevil shirts at that time because they only literally just came into existence the week before.
Right.
So, you know, when you think about our con meetups later on, where you have a whole room of people wearing Save Daredevil shirts, that was not the case in January 2019. So extra shout out to Phyllis and her friend for just making our day so much. That was just amazing.
I can't even imagine that because like having gone to all these big cons, I mean, every time I still see a Save Daredevil shirt in the wild, you know, and it's not like, oh, there's that person that I know is coming and I'm looking for.
Right.
And when I see one, it's like tremendous. And so seeing one that first week had to have just been amazing.
We were like, oh my God. there is a picture of us, like all four of us with our shirts. And it's just like, we were so excited.
It's a real thing. It became real to us at that time.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, and like a lot of things, we were there for both the days. And I've already talked about the second day, the conversation that we had with Charlie. For those of you who have not listened, it was in episode 4 where we talked about how did you become a Daredevil fan, part 1. So I talk about my conversation with Charlie. So anyone wants to check it out, please do.
So we're going to hop over to our next event. And while this isn't specifically a con, it is con adjacent. And Rhiannon has some thoughts to share about participating in our first Save Daredevil New York City meetup that we organized in February 2019.
I think like the theme of all of these like very early cons was just sort of campaign becoming real in real life. Like one thing that we started talking about when we were planning this podcast is, you know, there's hundreds of thousands of signatures and you can see a bunch of people using hashtags, but there is something so different when you get a whole bunch of people together. And for me, I was not involved with Save Daredevil behind the scenes. And I just started getting these texts from Shelby, who was involved from day one. And they were just kind of like, hey, which Fridays do you have off of work? Because I got like every other Friday off work. And it was just like something was being planned and they really wanted me to, you know, be there to be a part of it and all that. And next thing we knew, there was a Save Daredevil gathering on a Friday in New York City that I later learned like very much kind of wanted to be on a weekday. So it would be small. So like, because we had no idea what to expect, you know, and that's where I met like a few members of the Save Daredevil team all at once. And they were amazing. Like they were enjoyable people to be around, which is not always the case. I mean, I have met people from the internet many times. And there are times where you're just kind of like, okay, nice to meet you, bye. You know, but like this whole group. And we had the most iconic New York City day. I mean, like there was an itinerary throughout the whole day. You know, like the actual meetup was at 6 a.m. at Good Morning America outside, like with signs and wearing your shirts and everything.
And we do have to shout out Lauren, who was the mastermind behind the planning of this meetup.
And it was very cool that there was a mastermind. And that there was this plan. I mean, it wasn't just, hey, guys, let's all meet at Starbucks. There was a plan. There was an itinerary. It had purpose. It had meaning. It was well thought through. And this is when, like, the Save Daredevil campaign to me kind of was like, okay, like, I've seen brats on the internet just tweeting, save my show. This is different. These are people that are very thoughtfully doing what they're doing. They're enjoyable to be around. They're doing everything with intent. I mean, I think we've talked about it in other podcasts, I'm sure, or during our
panel.
Yeah, during our panel. But like actors from the show came and met us there. Royce Johnson and Jeff Cantor came and met us. And we ended up sitting at a Starbucks for hours with Jeff Cantor. He's furiously like texting Joe Quesada to see, like, he realized we were real and good people. And he's sitting there trying to get Joe Quesada to like let us in the office because our itinerary had go to Marvel and knock on the door.
Because we had a gift. We had a gift prepared for Joe Quesada. Yes.
Okay, sorry. Go to Marvel, knock on the door and give Joe a gift.
Yeah, not just
I mean, it was all very respectful. It wasn't go beat down the doors at Marvel. It was like go and respectfully ask if they will let us in. And they kind of did. They let us through the door at least and let us take a selfie and then ushered us out. But I mean, like with this gang of people on a random Friday morning, we're going down to the Marvel headquarters, you know. And this all was like exactly 2 years ago. It was
and the billboard. The billboard was amazing.
Yeah, we went from there to Times Square where we met Naquam and we saw the billboard. Yeah, somebody had reached out to the campaign and done the billboard. And, you know, there again, like hanging out with the team, like Lauren explaining, okay, here was our thought process of doing the billboard. Here's how it happened, blah, blah, blah. It just made everything so real and everything felt very rational for what is insane. I mean, that day was insane. You know, it was just sort of my first in-person contact with Save Daredevil, and to me, it very much changed my opinions of the campaign. So all of these other interactions that we had later on, I approached all of them as if, hey, I want them to have the same experience that I did that first day in New York City and like us the same way.
Right. Yeah. I remember after that, I do believe I mentioned this in the team panel too, but I think we got less shy about asking you to just come and like hang out with us more. So.
I still didn't like officially join the Save Daredevil team until like a couple gatherings later.
Right.
It was pretty much Shelby like, I'm tired of forwarding your ideas.
I know.
Just, you know, like, join the freaking Discord.
Yeah.
I think by the time Wales happened, you were already part of the team, right?
No.
Yeah. No.
Okay,
Look
it
at
took
you,
that.
you're So now Wales. So now Wales, which is when we hopefully won Rhiannon over.
Well,
Yes.
so I started getting, like, even when we were in New York, I think Casey wasn't a member of the team then.
No, she was new to us
she-
that day. Yeah.
Yeah, she had showed up with a whole bunch of 3D printed stuff and had this crazy idea to make a trophy of a Daredevil throwing a microwave. And, like, she started texting me about it afterwards, and I'm like, go talk to the real people. I'm not officially involved with them. Like, go do it. So then, yeah, somehow we ended up in the UK.
I wasn't there, so I got to hear from you guys. Tell me about Wales Comic Con.
So the seed for Wales and London were planted in the ACE panel when people were asking Charlie about betrayal, and then Tom showed up. He crashed his panel, and he goes, "Yeah, you guys buy tickets." I'm like, at that time, I was like, no, it's too far. I don't think I'll be able to do that. And then later on that month, when he signed up for Wales Comic Con, I said, okay, now it's just 2 countries, 1 continent. Maybe I can make this work. And end of January, I already booked everything. So, I mean, I had a fantastic time. Charlie is just hilarious. He really can tease you if he realizes what a huge fangirl you are. I remember standing in the autographs line, and I just met Amy, one of her other team members from UK. Then I got to talk to Charlie. I know that he doesn't remember me from Arizona, but when I mentioned my name, I think he kind of remembered my name, because it's not a common name in this part of the world, right? Ayesha. So he said, I've met you before, and I'm like, I don't know if you remember, but yes, I was in Arizona. And he goes, Tom was there, and he's just got this serious look on his face, and he's looking at me. And Amy is the one who says, when he asked that, the expression on your face was like, huh? And I said, yeah, I know Tom was at ACE. And he goes, yeah, you remember, right? Tom Hiddleston was there? I said, yeah. And I'm just looking at him, and he goes, but you were not there for him, were you? You were there for me. And I'm like, duh, Charlie, of course I was there for you. So he's funny. He's a funny guy, and he's so down to earth. He was so generous when I told him that, hey, you know what? My whole contingent is coming tomorrow. We have more Save Daredevil people coming. And he goes, oh, do you want a group photo? I said, yeah. I'm like, this was a dream, right? And we didn't even have to ask him. He just offered it. And the next day when we all showed up in our Save Daredevil shirts, he's like, okay, yeah, you stand there. You stand there. We're the tallest. Let's stand at the back. And like, he was the one who organized that photo shoot with the group. And then he, we had tons of stuff for him to sign for charity, because we were doing the charity auction.
Mm-hmm. That was our first one.
Yeah, and he very generously signed everything that we placed in front of him. When I mentioned Sightsavers, he said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to Uganda with them in a few weeks." So he was amazing. And then we gave him the Golden Microwave Award.
The same award that the germ of the idea happened in New York.
Right, and it was amazing.
And I mean, like, one of my biggest memories of that, and all of these cons where, like, there's the chance to meet, or all of these situations where there's the chance to meet Charlie, is seeing the people, the other fans in the line. I just remember in Wales, there was one fan that was so nervous. Like, we're all in line to meet Charlie, and she was so nervous. And I was just like, you're fine. Trust me, he is going to make you feel comfortable, like, whatever he does. And just watching those people come away, like, seeing people, I don't know, I could enjoy at cons, just like sitting back and watch people after they have these experiences and see how people just glow after they've had their chance to go up there and talk to him and get whatever signed, or looking at their pictures. It's just, that to me is the magic of these events, where all of the fans are having their dreams come true.
And Charlie especially is one of those rare ones that goes out of his way to make each fan meeting as personal as possible. Because when you do go to cons, you realize, oh, this is like assembly line. Like they want to spit people out as quickly as possible. And Charlie is usually the one that's like, wait, you know.
The people officially with that con when he was signing all of the like stuff for charity, because there was a fee, I mean like a massive charge to get something signed. Yeah. And Charlie's just sitting there like subconsciously like signing everything in front of him and handing it to us. The person with the con was just sitting there about to have a coronary. Just like,
yeah.
What the heck? You know.
He takes his time.
Yeah.
With each fan. He's just the most nicest, most kindest person you'll ever meet. I'm usually very shy with celebrities. He's the only guy, only actor that I don't feel, I'm not shaking when I'm seeing him because he's just so down to earth. He's just very normal.
And he shouted you guys out too there as well, right? On his panel with Haley Atwell?
Haley Atwell, oh my gosh. Like, she is so gorgeous in person. Oh, but the two of them on a panel, like, it was great.
Yeah. So on the same trip, when we came back to London and you and Shelby had a betrayal show to attend, right?
Yeah. We had bought our tickets before all this other stuff was planned. So our tickets were for the weekend after Wales.
Right. And mine was too. It was my birthday. So I had booked my ticket on my birthday. Yeah, the one that I'd booked 3 months ago. And so after the birthday, I actually got a chance to buy another ticket, managed to watch the show twice, met Charlie again. And then we did our first London meetup in a crypt.
It was so hard to plan a meetup in a city that I've never been. Like, I mean, you did a lot of the research and everything, but we found this crypt.
Leslie was the one who found that place. Yeah. And I just knew, because I've lived in London, so I knew the city and it was the perfect place.
So actually. Perfect. When you guys said we're having our meetup in a crypt, I'm like, gosh, we are so on brand.
In a crypt.
Well, and it was very close to the theater. And we did it on a day that there was like matinee. We did it during the times that like, in a perfect world, Charlie could have come and joined us between the two shows, which he would never do. I mean, who has time to go join a fan gathering between two shows on the West End?
He said it was his nap time.
Yes.
Between the two plays.
Yeah.
Because we tried to
learn.
Yeah, like we tried to invite him. We did invite him, right? He knew it was happening, but he just couldn't make it work at that time.
Because it was nap time.
Yeah.
Which was fair. But, just having fans in an international city coming out in their Save Daredevil or Daredevil t-shirts coming to meet us.
It was incredible.
Totally wild. And that was only the first one because we had ended up doing 2 London meetups. So there is a London meetup that happened, I think, later in the fall.
Same place.
But just the fact that like, oh yeah, we can have international meetups. There'll be enough fans for that.
Yeah.
Blew my mind.
And just like, them even getting the shirts. Like, I think it was Leslie was talking about how hard it was to get her Save Daredevil shirt shipped. Because we used this North American company. And like she paid as much in customs as she did for her shirt to get there. So to see like, multiple people that have those shirts, like, wow, the level of dedication.
Yeah. And I want to give a brief shout out to just the European Fandom Without Fear. They are some of the sweetest, most dedicated fans that we've met online. And a number of them have met in person, which, again, it really just blows my mind that the campaign can contribute to creating relationships that aren't necessarily, it's not just for the campaign. It's because we're all Daredevil fans and we all share in this thing that we love so much. And that can build connections and bonds between others that aren't just in our immediate circle. So that was just such a treat to see unfold over this year, in between all the cons as well.
Like international fans, even without the core team being present, they've gone to cons and have worn our t-shirt to represent the campaign. So that means a lot to us.
So we're gonna go to our next con, which was San Diego Comic-Con in July 2019. This was kind of the big kahuna. It was myself, Rhiannon, and Shelby. And in retrospect, I am amazed that we pulled off what we did because if you've never been to San Diego Comic-Con, it is no freaking joke. This is like the biggest Comic-Con in North America.
In the world. I mean,
probably in the world.
Yeah, it's Comic-Con International. I mean, Brazil might be bigger now.
Yeah, but it is capital C Comic-Con. Like 4 packed days, more programming than you can even think could exist in one weekend. And we were like, hey, this is our shot to try to do something big, to get some more exposure for Save Daredevil. You know, Marvel has a huge presence at Comic-Con every year, and well, we're going to take advantage of that. So I remember personally being very anxious and nervous, but what did work out is San Diego is where I live. It's my hometown. So it helped to have a little bit of a hometown advantage, you know, being able to use my car as a harder storage for all weekend. Because if you met us at Comic-Con that year, you might have noticed that myself, Rhiannon, and Shelby literally had like 2 Save Daredevil tote bags on our arms at all times filled with swag. But, you know, that was the energy we were bringing. We wanted to like go big or go home. We made lanyards, we made fans, we made like everything you can imagine. There were pins. We did spontaneous giveaways. That was also the same time they were promoting the prop store auction too. So it felt like it was on people's minds, you know, because not just being like the first big con after cancellation, but they were putting up like Marvel Netflix stuff at the Marvel booth because they wanted to try to promote this auction event, you know? And so, yeah, it was just wild. And I haven't even gotten to the good stuff. I'm going to let Rhiannon also pop in with some thoughts too.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember all the planning. I mean, somewhere between Wales and Comic-Con and looking at how close these two were.
Right.
I can't believe how we got from one to the other. But that's all you and your nervous energy going into planning.
It definitely converts directly into planning energy.
Yes. And having all this. I mean, but I do love so I mean, like one of the things that I've loved about Save Daredevil at all the cons is like sort of the social situations and everything. Having something to go up and talk to somebody about makes it so much easier. So but San Diego is just, I don't know, like you need a mission when you're there, or else you're just going to like go nuts trying to be at everything.
You're going to drown essentially if you don't have a plan.
Yes. So this was like my 3rd San Diego, and I didn't really have a plan for it. Like there was no, you know, there were no Netflix Defender shows at all to go see. I didn't really have a whole lot of shows I was super excited about in general. So it was just like really nice to dig into the Save Daredevil plan. And I swear my feet still hurt.
When you talked about your feet hurting, like my feet also started hurting because it's like that is a physical memory that I associate with being at San Diego Comic-Con. And our team, though, like we were small but mighty. Like I wish, you know, we're going to talk about New York. I wish we had the size of the New York team at San Diego, given what we ended up doing. But just that the fact that like y'all were just so on board and ready to go. We got it done. You know, we did all the stuff I already said. You know, we did the giveaways. We talked to so many fans, and we threw our first party.
Yeah.
We found a great place within walking distance of the convention center. And we had our first like major special guest, which was Eric Olson, season 3 showrunner. And he just hung out with us like all evening and in a room full of Daredevil fans. And that was just like my brain, because it was at the end of it was on a Thursday. So that was the first day of the con. Mostly because we wanted to make sure we weren't counter scheduling against like big things that usually happen in the weekend. And I remember even the planning of it was just very like tumultuous because it's so hard to plan parties during San Diego Comic-Con weekend because there are just so many and there's just so much going on. And we learned a lot from planning that one because with like ticketing and stuff, we realized like, oh, we should have put more limits on this because they just like quote unquote sold out even though it was free, sold out right away. And then we were like freaking out about, you know, are we going to be able to feed everyone? Like feed everyone?
Are we going to have 150 people show up?
Exactly.
Like,
you know, we made swag bags for everybody. We had like free stuff to give away. But again, it was so exhausting planning and like having that first long day there. But when we got to the pizza place, which Basic Pizza, if you're ever in downtown San Diego, the manager there was so kind in working with us to like book the space. He also, after the fact, told us that, him and his wife are also fans of the show. And he hoped that we would be successful in our campaign. But when we were there, and just even the energy there was still nervous for me personally, because I'm just like, so many things to plan. But the fans just all like hanging out and having a good time, and like Eric offering, much like Charlie Cox, offering all these stories, and everyone's just like sitting in a rapt attention. And I don't know, that's going to be one of the most memorable things I've ever done at San Diego, like ever.
And he also did the Google Hangout with the rest of the team.
Right. We made sure to try our best to lock him in for a little bit of time to kind of step aside and say hi to the team. Because, again, we were a very small presence. It was just the three of us that were there from the actual team. And we wanted him to know, like, just because it's just us three representing Team Save Daredevil, even though you also met a lot of people from the Fandom Without Fear, like, there's a whole global group of ladies that are putting in the time and the effort to make this campaign what it is. And so I am very, very happy that he was able to say hi to everybody, even though it was really hard for him to hear everyone because it was just loud. But yeah, it was just so much fun. And it definitely set a template, and I think like a level of, oh yeah, we can definitely do this again.
And you had like the coasters.
Oh,
you
right,
had,
the coasters.
Like there was a little bit of like a branding situation. I mean, like, because if there's one thing Save Daredevil has done, it's been branding.
Oh, yeah.
So we had like the party coasters for everybody, and like some little signs that definitely made it easier down the road.
Absolutely. Yeah. We definitely tried out a lot of things at Comic-Con that I think, hopefully when we do get to go back to cons again, we will be able to bust those out of our toolbox. I also wanted to share like an adjacent memory that's specific to the campaign, but we had the opportunity while we were there to meet a member of another Save Our Show campaign, which was so cool. So we met Ed from the Save the Expanse, which at that point had already become The Expanse Lives.
We were planning to propose for New York Comic Con.
Right.
So we had gotten up with some. Yeah. We were still planning our application because it was due like a week after San Diego.
Right.
We were like, let's just meet and have drinks in San Diego.
Yes, because I remember we reached out to a few campaigns, and I think it just turned out that Ed was already going to be at San Diego because he was going to be there for Expanse stuff. And that was also like one of those, it can only happen at Comic-Con. We just chose like a random place, like in the gas lamp, squeezed into like a grungy diner booth. Most of us ordered like breakfast food for dinner, and just talked about our campaigns and like shared campaign war stories and like shared strategy and like what worked, like how did your campaign like unfold, what happened, and like comparing notes, because the Save the Expanse campaign was very different from ours. There's kind of happened within the course of a few weeks, whereas at that point we were still, we were still in our first year of, potentially 2 years. But just that opportunity to like talk to another fan, not just another fan, but a fan who helped run, the campaign for his fandom. And I don't know, it's the whole like being able to meet the people behind the hashtags and know that they are real people and like actually really cool people, and find that common ground. Because even though, I think after that we were like, okay, so you watch Daredevil and we'll watch The Expanse, right?
Yes. And they did. We saw them again at New York. Like the whole Expanse team came up to us in New York, and they were like, "We watched some Daredevil."
Yeah.
By the way, to the Expanse team, a lot of us actually have like caught up entirely with the show, so we're there with you for the next season. And I think the other thing that was cool about that meeting too was, I think it gave us something to potentially look forward to, because we were talking directly to a campaign that had achieved their goal. And kind of hearing all the cool things they had planned for their post-campaign life, especially with the show itself, I think it just helped add some fuel to the tank. Like, okay, that could be something that might be in our future too. And that was really, really nice to have at that moment.
And I think part of that also, with Marvel, Marvel is so locked down, we know, and we knew at that time we were shouting out and we were not going to get any response. No matter how successful we were, no matter if everybody behind that wall at Marvel loved us and wanted everything to go, there really wasn't much that we would ever hear officially. Maybe ever, and for one, on the San Diego floor, like we did kind of like people at the Marvel booth were kind of like, yeah, we know you. You know, like we got all of those little winks and nods and all that. But also, talking to the Expanse folks, like they had a very free back and forth with the people behind the scenes. And Ed was there because Amazon, did they fly him out or did they gave him a pass? He at least had gotten his pass from Amazon.
Yeah, I think they hooked him up to get there because San Diego is it's a hard ticket to get.
Yeah. So they very much got that energy back from the people behind the scenes, the producers, the people at Amazon and everything, like all of that. So it kind of was like, okay, that energy is probably there, even if Marvel can't reach out and, you know, like maybe when Daredevil is saved, they'll give us Comic-Con passes to be in Hall H with it.
Right. But you're right. Even knowing that we're never going to get a direct response right now, we felt so much positivity because you're right. They definitely knew who we were and they definitely knew why we were there. And they were like so sweet. And so I've really needed that boost because that was a little over 6 months of our campaign. And, you know, we had a lot more to go. So every bit of positive energy we could get. And I think that's the thing. In person, that energy just feels so much more alive and specific. That really, really helped.
And I think, again, like our energy went forward, too, because I remember like when we first walked up to the prop store guy, he saw our Save Daredevil shirts and like there was a look of actual fear in his eyes. Like there was, please don't hurt me. I'm just here to do my job. And he even said something to the effect, you know, he was like, please don't shoot the messenger. And we were like, no, dude, like, we're just really excited to see this stuff in person and all that. And he was like, oh, good. Cause I had no idea what to expect when the Daredevil fans came. He was like, I really didn't know how people were going to feel and how they were going to treat us and all of this. And it was just like very interesting to see, you know, by the end of the con, we could just go by and they'd like fist bump us, you know, like people learning that we were good natured and positive and upbeat. You know, I think it did go both ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right. So I think this is a good point to transition to our last set of con highlights. And this is one that you've heard from us before, but, you know, there's just a font of memories to share from this one. And this is New York Comic Con, October 2019.
And I think this one sticks out so much. I mean, like, even Marvel has said this. New York is Daredevil's home. This is the home of the show. This is the set of the show. This is where the show filmed. This was like our campaign got to Hell's Kitchen.
We had already decided that we were going to New York Comic Con earlier in the year. And then Betrayal came to Broadway.
Right.
This was end of June when, you know, the London run had ended and I was at work. I was at a work lunch outside somewhere. And my phone just like, you know, started beeping and it wasn't silent, but I could see like DMs coming and I'm like, what's going on? And I looked at it and like, oh, Betrayal, Broadway, Charlie. I'm like, when? And they said, you know, like, oh my God, during New York Comic Con, there's going to be Betrayal in New York? I'm like, okay, we're definitely going then. So that was, you know, New York Comic Con. I love it. This was the second time I was going to be there. And I love the energy that brings together. But this was the first time that we're going to have a huge team Save Daredevil, you know, get together. Much more of the team members were going to meet. And I was so excited about it.
I mean, I live in New York City, so this is my home. It's like, I want to make it big, but I don't have a car for us to pull a big old like truck full of swag up to. It was a lot more logistics when you're having to carry all the swag through New York City.
On the subway?
It's a solid 1.2 mile walk from my house to the con, and we've talked about feet hurting. The thing about New York Comic Con is you're always going to have your Daredevil cosplayers there. Like, there doesn't need to be a Daredevil event there to be full of Daredevil fans, because it is his home. And it's such a different vibe than San Diego. Not better or worse or anything, just a completely different vibe there. So in San Diego, we knew that Eric Olison was coming. Like, he messaged us and he was like, I'm going to be coming. If you want to advertise it, you can advertise it. And we were just like, you know, stuff comes up. And we don't want a whole bunch of people to show up thinking they're going to meet him and him not show up and all of that. So we had a whiff that Charlie Cox would be coming to our party. We had been slightly forewarned, but nothing was ever certain. So we didn't advertise that. I mean, before that even, like we're on the show, you know, like I was saying, whenever we see the Save Daredevil shirts in the wild, it's exciting. You know, if I see it and I don't recognize that person's face as being a part of the team. So we're at the Marvel booth while Joe Quesada's up on stage and there's this woman in a Save Daredevil shirt. And it turns out that was Joe Quesada's wife, like just standing at New York Comic Con wearing one of our shirts. Like, what better endorsement is that? And we'd printed out invitations for our rooftop party. So we made sure Joe Quesada got one. We were passing them to everybody. I think Joe probably got 3 throughout the con. Vincent D'Onofrio got one, like anybody that we thought might come. And then we had our party.
Right. And the day before, we had done the betrayal together in Team Save Daredevil. Yes, and we were all, we got, front row seats for our betrayal show, and we all wore Team Save Daredevil shirts. And Charlie, if anyone wants to see what Charlie's reaction was at the, stage door, go on our Twitter. It's all over there. And he was just, he was amazed and so excited. And in true Charlie fashion, he was very gracious afterwards. To meet us. And this was Friday night. And then Saturday was the meetup. And Saturday was the Marvel booth that we'd already, done the rounds at New York Comic Con.
And we did our party in that same time period between the 2 shows of Betrayal. That was nap time. Charlie told us that was nap time.
That's true. And I remember earlier in the day, there was Saturday, I was at Madison Square Garden because I was attending a Star Trek panel there. And between the panels, I changed from my Star Trek t-shirt to my Save Daredevil t-shirt, and I got out of Madison Square Garden and met these 2 Star Trek fans who saw my Save Daredevil shirt, and he goes, they started talking to me about the campaign. Apparently they were fans. And I said, are you coming to the meetup? And he goes, you know what? We're planning to. And I said, don't be late. There might be some surprises. And I remember that at the meetup after, they came to me and said, thank you so much for telling us to come on time because we didn't miss anything. We saw Joe, we saw Charlie, and, Royce and Susan and Nakam, and so they were really happy.
People that decided to be fashionably late to the party missed that window between the 2 betrayal shows. So.
Right. Because it was squash time instead of nap time.
It was squash time. So
squash time, yes.
Which we just learned there was like a betrayal reunion interview. We just learned that between the 2 shows, Charlie went and took squash lessons so that he could start kicking Tom's butt at squash. So between the matinee and the evening performance, he and Tom Hiddleston had gone to play squash, and he decided to stop by our party on the way home.
Yeah, in his sweats and, holding the squash rackets. So
yeah.
So I guess nap time.
With a squash racket and a burrito.
Right. Nap time had become squash time and dinner time. I mean, we've talked about that meetup a lot, and that was fantastic. Not just because Charlie was there, but Joe Quesada. I mean, he was the first one to arrive, and we got a chance to sit down with him, and the support that we got from him. Even though officially, Marvel cannot say anything, the fact that he was there and he supported the campaign, that was so good.
Spoke volumes.
Well, and I think to him, like I was saying throughout the other stuff, it brought the campaign to life for him, the people behind it. Because, he's been around a lot of the comic book world, and he saw us as a very different audience. And, I felt like he was interviewing us as much as we were, asking him stuff, just curious about this whole new group.
Right. And I think, I don't know, did he know that we were all women?
He found out that day.
Yeah. I wonder if that was also interesting too, because I think whenever people talk about the show and the key demographics, people don't usually think women of all various ages and backgrounds. It's usually men. Yeah, men between 18 to 45. So I think we definitely represented a very different demographic of the comic book genre fandom.
Like, he tweeted about us later.
Yes.
Like, somebody was complaining about people that like shows that come to Comic-Cons, and he was like, no, I met a group that, you know, like, they started watching those shows and then they started reading the comics. And we should be trying to get those people. You know,
Right. And it's not just TV show fans. There were, you know, he found out that there are a lot of us were hardcore comics fans from before the TV show was even around. So that was enlightening for him, I'm sure.
And I think just as someone who was sort of very excitedly observing the weekend from the outside and like waiting for all the updates, I just think this was just such a cool capper to our year of cons. You know, it did feel like this perfect climax. Everything that had built up from Ace to Wales to San Diego, finally to New York, getting to know and see the team meeting like so many different casts, because even the people we definitely met casts outside of that rooftop party, because Vincent D'Onofrio did the Cup of Joe panel with Joe Quesada during the con, and then you guys met Jeff and Peter like I think before the con started. And then I think at some point during that we dropped off some stuff for Amy Rutberg to sign for us for charity. Within that like little set of like 3 days, just the amount of interactions that we had with people who were affiliated with the show, with other fans who obviously love the show. I don't know, just again, that energy, like even though I wasn't there, and I can only imagine how overwhelmed I would have been with that energy if I was there, but even like being someone who was just kind of following it online, it was just so cool and so awesome to watch and to like still feel that. You know, so even when we're making connections like in person and creating this energy in person, that still does translate back online to the rest of the fandom without fear, to the other fans. And I think that was such a critical driver of our momentum again, you know, to kind of end 2019, because none of us would have guessed what 2020 would have had in store for us. So, you know, I'm so grateful that we had that experience to close things out with.
I mean, I'm just so grateful that I got a chance to travel, because in 2020, like, scrapped all those plans. And we're hoping that things will get under control at some point in the near future and we can start traveling again. Because I miss that. I miss meeting my friends and meeting other fans. And I hope and wish that the convention circuit will start again at some point in the near future.
Yeah, not far future, near future.
Yeah. It will start again. It will start again.
It has to.
This year. I gave swag to people in the vaccination line.
Oh, that's awesome.
I
got these pins.
Amazing.
I'm so ready for it. That was like voting. We're waiting in a line. I'm like, I'm waiting in a line.
I know. Every time I end up in a line to get into the grocery store, I'm like, I prepared for this already because I've attended cons.
I'm prepared.
You know, I give swag to people in my office, right? And the customers that come, I give them swag. So.
Yeah. They're like, Ayesha, can you stop giving us swag? We really need cons to open back up. So Ayesha can hand out swag to other people. But yeah, I mean, this was such a fun. I'm very thankful we got to walk down memory lane on this one. I mean, I hope that for those of you guys who are listening, that we will get to meet you sometime soon and we will get to hang out and party again. Well, that is what will happen. We will definitely party again. But yeah, you know, if you guys have any notable memories from your previous con experiences, we'd love to hear it, especially if you were with us. But, you know, just let us know what are your favorite memories from the cons you've attended, because I think it's just nice to be able to share in those kinds of memories together right now as we look forward to more of that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, just like we will do this in the future. I think there's a lot of stuff that we've thought about, like the future of the campaign and the future of Save Daredevil and what it is and everything. Guys, 10 years from now, I hope that like at New York Comic Con, you know, maybe we've watched the new Daredevil 5 seasons and a movie. But even if we haven't, even if everything like ends, like Marvel goes bankrupt tomorrow or something weird, I want to be gathering and meeting all these people at cons. I want, and I want fans out there that have never been to any, don't be afraid to go to them. I mean, your feet will hurt. But other than that, don't be afraid to go to them. You will have a great time. Yes, they're crowded. Yes, there's so many things going on. But even within those crowds and everything, you will find your people. You will have a chance to talk to strangers. You will see somebody in a, say, Daredevil shirt and be like, oh my God, you'll have that reason to talk to somebody and go up and all of that. And, and when we advertise parties, come. I know the New York one, unless there's massive changes to, I will always try to find a place where as many people can show up as they want. Come, be on time, because you never know who might be there. And don't be shy about it. Because I know a lot of the Daredevil fandom can be shy. It attracts a certain person. But we will do this again. And I know right now for some people it feels completely unattainable that we will not have these cramped, crowded events. Maybe just the thought of it gives you anxiety. It may be different. It may look different. It may feel different. But it will be something that you want to come to. So let's do it.
And we'll be there.
We will be there with swag.
Yeah, and we've talked about going to cons with friends, but you can go alone as well. I've gone to cons by myself, and I'm a shy person, but things I'm passionate about, my fandoms, you will always find fans in those cons, and you can always interact and you make new friends. And maybe cons will look different, like Rhiannon said, but that's fine. I'll wear a mask and I'll go. There's no doubt in my mind that we will have this again. We just have to be a little patient. That's it.
Well said, you guys. So with that, share your favorite memories in the comments. If you haven't started following us already, this is a great time to do so. We are at Renew Daredevil on Twitter, and we are Save Daredevil everywhere else. And that's it for us today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Talk Daredevil, the official podcast of the Save Daredevil campaign. For more information on Save Daredevil, please visit our website at savedaredevil.com. Remember, Murdochs always get back up.